I just want to preface this by saying I adore this truck, and it took me quite a while to come up with these things that I do not like about it. So, these are the 5 things that I hate about my OBS Powerstroke. You know, there's a lot of really good benefits about living in Utah, but one of the biggest things is it snows here a lot, and they salt the roads a lot, which contributes to stuff like this. This really makes me sad, because this is a big problem with these trucks, especially this part right here in the wheel well. They just had like a poor manufacturing with the metals on here, so they were more prone to capture moisture and dirt and just rust away. This side is the worst because there's this massive hole right here. The other side has it pretty bad too, but the cab corners have it as well. And it really sucks because this whole truck is the whole truck itself is great, and most of the body panels are in great shape. It's just these few little spots that it's just hard because it's very expensive to replace and fix correctly, and I don't have the know-how or the tools to do it myself, so I'm mostly just left to letting it rust more unless I want to take it to a professional and pay several $1,000s to get it fixed. I just kind of have to deal with it. I know there's lots of ways to fix this, like getting a flatbed or buying another bed, which I've actually considered. Some people say to put the fenders on there, like the big plastic fenders, which is kind of just putting a band-aid on a bullet hole at that point. I think I'm gonna end up having to get an entirely different bed, which really makes me sad because this bed is in really great shape. The inside of the bed is great. There's no dents or dings. It's a little scuffed up just from use, but yeah, rust is really, it's a crappy situation with these trucks. The thing that really makes me nervous with my truck is these chrome pieces here that go along the side of the truck. Who knows what's hiding under there? There could be more rust. There could be a hole in there for all I know. I don't really want to take it off because, one, I like how it looks, and two, I don't want to discover a whole bunch of cancer under there. There are simple fixes for the rust regarding the bed. They're very expensive fixes, like I said, a flatbed. But if you're like me and you're not towing like super heavy, or you don't really have the need for a flatbed, there really is no point in getting one. I use the bed for everything. I put my bike back there, I take it camping. That's where I sleep when I go camping with my family. I go on lots of trips to the dump, so I have it full of trash and garbage that I need to throw away. You can't really do most of that with a flatbed. You can, but it's a little more complicated, so I think I'll just have to find a bed somewhere else, which is really just a shame, but that's honestly the best thing I can do at this point. So this is my second OBS Powerstroke that I've owned. Thankfully this one doesn't have as many electrical issues as the first one I had. Electrical issues are a major issue with these trucks. This was the dawn of electric systems in vehicles. This was the late 90s, so we were just starting to put computers and stuff into the trucks at least. I know some of the cars have had them for a while at that point, but I do have an issue that is, I'm not sure where it stems from. I'm going to look into it a bit more this summer, but I'm having an issue with my door locks where they don't work whatsoever, and that led me down the path of trying to figure out what it was, because I had this problem when I first got the truck. I found that there was no fuse for the door locks, so I was like, oh, that's a simple fix. Go to the store, buy the fuse, stick it in. Radio pops up with a message that says, please check wiring. So something is going on between the radio and the power lock doors. I'm not sure what's going on. There's also a brake controller that was put in there beforehand. I'm not entirely sure what was done there. There's a lot of troubleshooting that I need to do, but since this is just a two-door truck, I haven't really messed with it too much because I can literally just reach over and unlock the door, or whatever for somebody else who's riding in there. My last truck that I had, I know that doesn't really pertain to this truck, but it had several electrical issues. There was lots of sensors that would go bad. I know the CPS, the crankshaft position, or it's either the crankshaft, I think it's the camshaft position sensor, that goes bad on these trucks, and which leads to hard starting. But I want to bring your attention to another issue that is actually under the hood with these trucks when it comes to electrical issues. These battery terminals that come stock with the truck are hot garbage. On the last truck I had, I actually replaced them, so they were great, but this one, unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to do that. So as you can see, they're starting to kind of break apart from the pressure built up. And yes, I know it doesn't help that I have 2 amp power wires going to this terminal, but still, they're not the best. They need to be replaced. With my last truck that I had an issue where the overdrive light would flash, and then it would kick it into different gears, which did damage to the transmission. I remember taking that truck into a shop to have, it was that actual transmission issue that I was having. I took it in there to have them check it out. And they clearly put on the notes of my invoice that this truck was riddled with electrical issues, which who knows what that means. One of the things that I'm not a huge fan of with this truck is the power. I made a video a couple years ago about, are these older trucks still a good buy? And in there I mentioned that this was probably the least powerful truck in the class at the time, late 90s, early 2000s. These trucks come with, like, I want to say it's 250 horsepower, maybe like 400, 500 pounds of torque. They're slow. They're dogs. They are slow. There's no going around that. The other trucks in this period will just blow them out of the water, especially when it comes to upgrades. That's the other thing, is the 7.3 motor in this early generation doesn't really take kindly to upgrades unless you do more internal mods. Yes, you can get chips and stuff, but that's just shortening the life of the vehicle. I know there's a lot of controversy about this. I had a chip on the last truck, and I firmly believe that that had a lot of issues regarding the transmission. The transmission on that truck was going out. Hey, future editing Jake here. I just want to make a really quick comment about chips and transmissions on these older 7.3s before I get absolutely obliterated in the comments section. I failed to mention that if you do have a manual transmission in one of these trucks, chips are going to be a lot more useful to you because you can control that power and when it shifts. The E4OD that comes in the older 7.3s is not the strongest once you put the chips on. They are good transmissions, but they don't hold power very well once you start upgrading. That being said, if you do want to get a chip for your truck, make sure you do one of two things. One, you have an upgraded E4OD or a manual transmission, or two, you have the money to replace one of those transmissions in the case that it does go out. That's why I love this truck so much that I have now. It's because it's all stock. There's no chips, there's nothing done to the engine. It doesn't even have an intake. I mean, I will be putting an intake on it, but that's kind of a double-edged sword. They are slow, they're dogs, but man, they can tow pretty much anything. It's probably not smart to tow more than, 20,000 pounds. These are rated, the 250s are rated to pull about 11,000. I know lots of people go over that, but you got to think that the braking system is just not, it's not up to par for that much weight. I see online people towing 20, 25, 30,000 pounds with these trucks, which is cool, but you can't really stop that unless you have, super upgraded brakes. But even then, like, it's kind of a crapshoot at that point. But on the other side, these trucks are incredibly reliable if you don't touch the power. I mean, I have a fast car. That kind of does it for me. So having this truck, I don't care that it's slow. I don't need it to be fast. It does the job, honestly. It does a great job. I don't need it to be fast. I need it to be reliable, and I need it to get me where I need to go. So that one is kind of a double-edged sword, kind of hard to say. It is not as fast as the other trucks in this time period. Number 4, I would probably have to say, is the ride quality. You could probably tell that I'm kind of going out here on a stretch trying to find things that I don't like about this truck, but one of the things is the ride quality is not as nice as others in this time period. It has the twin I-beam suspension, which is, it's nice. It's better than the straight axle on the F350s and above, but it is kind of rough to ride. There are upgrades you can do. There's a company called Sky Manufacturing who makes it's called a reverse shackle kit, and you can put it on there and it greatly increases the quality of ride on your truck. I haven't done that yet. That's actually one of the things that I really want to do. It is just inferior to, say, the 2nd gen Dodge Ram that has the coilover spring suspension. But you know, like I said, this is a 90s truck. You kind of getting what you pay for. Yeah, you can upgrade the suspension, but stock, it's not great. It does ride like a brick. It's very bouncy. Going off-road, you are going to be thrown everywhere. Going down the city streets with potholes, you're going to feel all of them. On the freeway, it's a little bit better, but you're still going to feel, you know, most of the bumps and stuff on the road. All of this can be addressed, but this is all just going from a stock perspective. The ride quality on this truck is not fantastic. There are better riding trucks. Once again, this can all be addressed. You can go and replace the full suspension on this truck so it rides like a cloud. But, you know, as it is, not the best suspension. The final thing that I don't really like as much about this truck is the room that the passengers have in the extended cab. Yes, I know I could have got a crew cab. However, crew cabs are significantly more expensive than the extended cab and single cab trucks. If you guys have ever been in a Ranger, like a early 2000s, late 90s Ranger, they have these pitiful seats that just kind of fold down and you sit in and you're basically like sitting in the lap of the person across from you. That's kind of how it is sitting back here. The only people who actually enjoy sitting back there are my nieces and nephews because, you know, they don't have very long legs. They can sit back there. They don't have a problem. But if you are, you know, a normal sized adult, you kind of have to amputate your legs to have a comfortable sitting position back there. I mostly just use it for storage. I keep my tools and stuff. For being one person, it's great because it's an extension of the truck. It's kind of like a toolbox in the back of your cab. It's really nice. I have all my audio equipment back there, my subwoofer, my tools if anything happens, you know, safety equipment, emergency stuff. I really like having it for extra space. Having people back there is just not ideal. If somebody's sitting right behind me, it's like sitting on an airplane. They're just kicking the back of my seat the whole time and I just want to turn around and punch them in the face. Yeah, it is not ideal for normal sized adults to sit back there. It's just incredibly uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for both of them and the person in front of them. At max, I can probably take 3 people with kids in the back. And the middle seat is quite comfortable, but there's not a whole lot of leg room for them as well. And heaven forbid I have a manual and try to shift with them in the middle. That just doesn't happen. Another thing that is not super fun, but I personally prefer for these trucks, is the manual locking hubs. Some of the trucks did come with automatic locking hub. They were prone to have issues. I personally have the manual locking hubs, which I like a lot. Sure, you do have to get out, but at least you know your truck is actually in 4-wheel drive. I don't use it very much. I used it in the winter whenever it was really, really snowy. I use it out here when I'm, you know, in the mountains if I need to get up rockier roads. It is a little inconvenient to get out of your truck to walk around to each side and lock the hubs, but I prefer it. So pick your poison, I guess. This one is kind of, the truck is very loud, right? I love it. Other people do not love it, especially when I'm in the drive-thru, and especially to the guy in the RAV4 who got out of his car to yell at me to turn off my truck so he could hear the drive-thru. I apologize. I did turn it off. Please don't hurt me. So I try to stay back a good you know, have a car length, maybe a full car length if I'm in the drive-thru. And if I can't, then I turn it off. I love it. I think it sounds great. Other people, not so much. Once again, that's just how these trucks were built back in the day. The Huey injection system on these is pretty loud. You can get chips that actually have a silent mode, but I'm good. I like the sound of this, so I'm gonna stay with it. And that, guys, brings us to the end of the video. You could tell that I have a hard time trying to find things wrong with this truck and things that I don't like. I adore this truck. I've had it for several years now. Most of these problems I've had since I got the truck, and I've just pretty much ignored them because it doesn't take away from the primary experience of driving this truck and using it. But yeah, that's 5 things and bonus things that I do not like about my truck. I'm going to be making 5 things that I love about my truck here soon, so you guys can get the other side of the perspective. So thanks again for watching, guys. Until next time, I will see you guys in the next video.